Taming the High Cost of College, Episode 70.
You have kids, they grow up, and before you know it, it's time to plan for college.
Where do you start?
How much is it going to cost?
Will you qualify for financial aid?
Should you be looking into scholarships?
When will you be able to retire?
What about student loans?
The list of questions is never ending. The good news is, all the answers are right here. Welcome to the Taming the High Cost of College podcast. Here is your host, certified financial planner, Brad Baldridge.
Hello, and welcome to Taming the High Cost of College. I'm your host, Brad Baldridge. In this episode, we have a great interview with Natalia Volz. She is an expert on dealing with grief. We're going to talk about how grief has an impact on planning for college. So if you or someone you know has been through a divorce or has had a death in the family, what we learn here today, it will be of great help to help you understand the process that you're going through and how it has an impact on your life as well as your college planning situation. In the years that I've worked with families, I've run into a number of families that are going through divorce and a few families where a spouse has died somewhere around the college time, and it throws everything kind of into a major tailspin. A lot of families struggle if they're dealing with a death or divorce because, quite honestly, there's more important things to do than plan for college. And that's the reality. Unfortunately, when you circle back around and college is now here, for a lot of families, you need to pick up the pieces and figure it out and work on it. And you need to be in the right state of mind so that you can do some quality planning. For some families, you're going to delay college for a year or two, perhaps, to make it work out. Other families are going to be full steam ahead, and you're just going to have to cope with the death or divorce. In addition, you're also going to have to plan for college and do it simultaneously. All right, so after this interview, I will also talk a little bit about the Scholarship Guide for Busy Parents. It's a great resource available for families that are trying to understand scholarships and pursue scholarships as a way to help fund college. As always, show notes are available at tamingthehighcostofcollege/70. Let's jump into this great interview. Hi, today we have a great interview with Natalia Volz. She is the founder of passingthroughgrief.com. Welcome, Natalia.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I guess before we jump into the website and that kind of stuff, you kind of have a story behind your business. So could you tell us a little bit about your background?
Sure. As you said, my name's Natalia Volz, and 5 years ago, actually 7 years ago, my husband of 20 years was diagnosed with terminal cancer. And he died 2 years later. At that time, we had 3 children. So when he died, our children were 11 and 13. I had twins who were 13, and my younger daughter was 11. So I was really thrown into, they were in elementary school and middle school, and life was turned upside down. And I did not know how to get through it. It's not something that I learned. We don't learn how to grieve, how to move through loss. And I couldn't find my way through. So I tried everything I could. I struggled for 2 years, was sure that I would grieve and move through it, and feeling that I had 3 young children that I needed to raise. I felt that it was really important that I healed and got back to living so that I could raise my children. And it didn't happen as easily as I expected. So 2 years later, when I was really still struggling and I had read every book I could read and I had tried anything I thought I knew to try, I wasn't feeling good after 2 years. And I then found a resource that did help me begin to recover from my grief. Mm-hmm. And because of that, through my healing and just reading every book and really learning the misinformation out there about grief, I've become passionate about helping others through the death of a spouse and helping them move through their grief as quickly as possible so that they can get on and rebuild their life.
Yes. Well, I'm sorry about your story, but I appreciate you sharing it because I think there's a lot of people out there that can learn from it and again shorten their pain and suffering. So
yeah.
And of course, another reason I wanted to talk with you is those children that were relatively young are now how old and what are they up to?
Yes, so my three children are now, it's been 5 years, so they are now 18. My twins are 18. They are seniors in high school, and my younger daughter is 16, learning to drive. So we are in the thick of high school and preparing for college.
And how do you feel that the death of your spouse had an impact on even what you're dealing with now as far as college is concerned?
The death of a parent, the death of a spouse has a huge impact on your entire life. One of the mistakes we make is saying, oh, you need to get back to normal. And you're not getting back to normal because my children lost their father forever. So it's really creating a new normal. So it had a huge, huge impact on their high school experience. And so therefore it's having a big impact on preparing for college. I can tell you a little bit about what has happened for them and just a little information about grief and children because there's such a lack of proper information out there.
Right. I would agree. So I think some of the stuff that you can teach us about that would apply if we had, if we were in a similar situation where our kids were young when the trauma occurred, or even if the kids are in high school now and the trauma is very fresh. So
yes,
let's go into what you learned about grief and what others need to learn if they're in that situation.
First of all, to remember that there is not a timetable that we get through grief. So unfortunately, in our culture, we give people about 6 weeks that we are worried about them and asking about them. And then we think, oh, now they should start feeling better. And that is just not the case. An article in Time magazine a number of years ago said that the average person suffered 4 to 8 years after a significant loss. And I have worked with many clients who 10 and literally over 20 years later have never recovered and say that they don't have the energy, that they still feel pain and they still cry easily over that loss. And children, another thing to know is same thing, that the school is patient for a little while, but they expect that the children are going to be okay and pop back pretty quickly. And the truth is, what I learned, which was really interesting to me, is that children show their grief often in 3 different ways. One, they will try to be perfect. They think that if they can be good enough, if they can be perfect enough, maybe bad things won't happen to them again. A second way is that they become very quiet and they think that if they could just hide, that maybe bad things won't happen. And the third way, which is the healthiest, but our culture and our schools don't like as much, is that they act out. And I had 3 children, and I had all 3 of those. I had one who took each of those different avenues of grieving. And so talking with the school and educating them that even if it's been 2, 3, 4 years after the loss, and the loss can be a divorce also. We have to grieve. Grief is the normal and natural response to a loss or significant change in our life. So we need to continue to talk to our school and to address the fact that it may be we each decide to deal with our grief at different times. And often children will just say, I'm going to put, they kind of unconsciously say they're going to put it on the back burner. And it may seep out in different ways, but they don't want to talk about it.
So then you mentioned the 3. So give us some examples of what you've been dealing with as far as the different responses. And
okay. So my daughter has allowed me to share her story. My oldest daughter is the one that really went into anger and acting out after her father died. And so for going to college, I was kind of nervous because she went from being a straight A student who in elementary school, all the way through elementary school, her teachers told me that she would never have any difficulty in school. She was just a natural student and an excited learner. And as soon as her father died, she had no interest in school. Her grades dropped and she began acting out in school to some extent, and losing friends who didn't understand what she was going through. So that was one child. My son really stepped up, said, "Oh my gosh, I don't have a father. I need to step into that role." And so he became very works extremely hard in school, got involved in all sorts of activities. Just every adult says to me, "Your son is amazing." And I think that people think that they'll say things like he handled his grief losing his father so well. And I don't I think that's an appropriate statement. He
Mhm.
handled it the way that he handled it, but it doesn't mean that he doesn't suffer every day and miss his father and wish that his father could guide him toward college and in his future. And my third daughter became pretty quiet during that time and didn't want people to acknowledge what had happened and really wanted to kind of hide that.
Okay. So then, as far as the college process that you've been going through, do you feel like the colleges understand and the high school understands and are making accommodations, or is it something you have to ask for or demand, or where are you at with that?
Yeah, I think you have to ask for it. You have to be, I think if you are a parent who has had, or I'm very sorry if you are dealing with the loss of a spouse, either through death or divorce. But what I say is that you need to take care of yourself first. Just like when we go on an airplane, the flight attendant stands at the front and tells us, if you're traveling with a child, put the mask on yourself first before you put it on your child. And that is the same with grief, that as the parent, your child is going to look to you, first of all, about how you move through the grief. You are their greatest teacher. And you need to take care of yourself so that you are prepared to take care of your children. You need to talk to, I've had to advocate for my children and tell the school that, okay, it's been 3 years, but this is still grief. And this is why my daughter's having trouble. She did not have trouble before her father died. This acting out behavior is a result of the death of her father. And with colleges, both of my children who are applying to college, they both used their experience of losing a father for their essays. And because it just made such a big impact. And my daughter, who's had a hard time, her essay was about the hard time that she had and how she came through and now has a goal to honor her father in a different way than she was honoring him the first few years.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you have to take, for me, you take who you're working with. And it's very important that you talk to the school, that you talk to the colleges. I have written to the colleges that my children have applied to because our financial situation changed drastically. My husband was the financial provider for our family. I only worked part-time, and he made more than 4 times what I had ever made. So our financial situation changed drastically. And that isn't, you have, I believe, 1 year on the FAFSA that if you are a widow, they give you something, they notice it for a year.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't understand that your financial situation really has changed long term.
Right, exactly. So, yeah, I think the loss of a spouse has the emotional impact that we've been talking about. It also has a lot of college planning, technical stuff about filling out the forms properly and making sure that the college is aware, and opportunities potentially to, especially if it's been a recent loss where maybe even your taxes from last year were good, but this year they're bad. All that stuff can be adjusted for, and you just need to work with the colleges on that. So I think there's a lot of college planning that you can do, but I think for a lot of people it's hard to do it because it's not a very high priority.
Right. I mean, many things go on hold, and they have to. And, your brain literally is functioning. I mean, it is not just an emotional reaction. With your brain, I mean, I've studied now the brain and grief. And I was so interested when I talked to clients, they were saying, I'm forgetting things. I'm so absent-minded. And what I've learned is that the prefrontal cortex actually shuts down when you're grieving. And so that part of your brain where you're able to critically think and where you're able to plan ahead, like planning college 5 years down the road, is not operating when you're deep in grief. And what is operating is what do you need in this present moment. It's the fight or flight at the base of your brain that is functioning the strongest. It's, I need some food, I need some water, I need sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And when we don't have a culture that is supporting the person and helping them through that time, it can be extremely difficult. So it's very, very important that we recover from our grief first so that we can go on to get back to being able to plan something like college. I did not think about it at first. I was just so deep in grief that I was not able to think far enough in advance into the college planning. Luckily, we had started some of the planning before my husband was diagnosed and died.
Mm-hmm. Let's say we feel like we're where you're speaking, and again, I've had some clients call it kind of the fog, where looking back, I don't really remember what I was doing or what happened.
Yes.
It's just all foggy to me that first year or that first 2 years or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I made decisions. I don't remember making them. We did stuff, but I don't really remember any of it and doing much of it on purpose or consciously. So if we feel like we're in that fog right now, how do we kind of move to the next step? If we're, what are the things that we can do? I know you have a website,
Yes.
so tell us a little bit about what's there and how it might
Okay,
help.
so if you are, and it doesn't even matter if you are 5 years out. I mean, one of the things I really want to stress is that we judge ourselves so much. People do not have the proper tools for healing from grief. So I am fortunate enough that I did figure it out. I now have developed my own process to help move people through grief because we really have misinformation. And so we can get stuck in it for many years. So first of all, don't judge yourself. If you are still feeling in that fog, you're still in a lot of pain or crying a lot, know that it's only because you didn't have the proper tools for moving through grief. So definitely, one, check out my website, passingthroughgrief.com. And I have information on there, free information that you can download and begin to help you, first of all, just begin to get some relief from that grief and begin to move the grief. There is emotional energy and a physical energy, and we're very down when we have this. And so I give you some tools for beginning to move the grief through you. So that's the first step. Reading does not help us move through grief. We hope, but we try to intellectualize it, and it is actually a heart issue. It's an emotional issue more than an intellectual issue. So we can't intellectualize our way through our grief. I was hoping to do that, and it didn't work. We also can't do it all alone. Grieve alone is a myth about how to move through grief. And so, we all grew up hearing laugh and the world laughs with you, cry, and what happens?
Cry alone.
You cry alone. Everybody knows that. So what happens is when we're grieving, people say, oh, leave them alone. They're grieving, they're upset. We actually need to be with others to move through our grief, and we need to be talking with others. So it's really important that parents do the work to recover from their own grief, and then they will be able to help their children recover from their grief. And they will also then be able to have more access to their critical thinking and planning for their future.
Right. All right. So let's say I've taken that step and I feel like I'm, as a parent doing better, but I think my students and, say a high school student, would a high school student get benefit at your website as well? Is it written or provided in a way that they could understand it?
I don't know that a high school student, no, I don't think that it's probably the best place for a high school student. I certainly could refer parents to some information that may be helpful. We each, especially teenagers, we each move at our own pace and we decide when we want to heal. There is a wonderful book, When Children Grieve, by John James and Russell Friedman. And that was where I first began my recovery, was through the Grief Recovery Institute. And they have information on their website. But really when I when parents call me, and often parents do call about their children, because we will often as mothers will do things for our children that we won't do for ourselves. And the truth is that you are able to help your child through their grief. And I actually do I do workshops for helping your child through their grief. And it's teaching the parents the tools for moving themselves through their grief so that they then know how to help their children. It's really that we just have wrong information. Telling people to act recovered doesn't make them recovered. Telling them to get busy doesn't make them feel better. So
so your thought is the better strategy for a family would be, parents obviously help themselves as
yes.
they can.
Yes.
And then it's not letting the student help themselves. It's you helping them, learning enough that you can help them. Okay.
Right. You get the proper information about how we heal from grief. And I have information on my website. That's my passion, is to get out that information about how do we actually heal from grief. I've had many, many clients. I also work at a hospice, and so I talk with people every day who are grieving. And often therapists do not understand grief, and they mistreat. We went through many therapists looking for one. I finally did find one that could work with my daughter. But be sure that if you are choosing to turn to a therapist to help you with your grief, that you ask them a number of questions about their training, what their beliefs are about grief. Grief is the normal and natural response to a loss. So we need to work with someone who really understands grief and hopefully has experience with their own loss, because if you haven't experienced it, it's something you cannot imagine.
Okay. So do you have any thoughts on, again, I'm thinking about families where maybe the divorce or death or something traumatic happened, say in the middle of high school.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I could see parents saying, well, my son is not ready for college based on what's happened. What's your thoughts on how do you know if they're ready, or is there times when they're not ready, and what do you do about that? Any ideas there?
Yeah, I say that we are each situation is unique. Each person is an individual. So because I have lost a husband, it doesn't mean that I can tell you what your experience of losing a husband is. And it's same with your children. For me, what I found and what I encourage is that you build the relationship, that you can have an honest talk about where your child is and whether college is appropriate at this time for them. It's certainly, I have had clients and I've had friends who have sent their children off to college. Some have been successful. Some have had to take a break and take some time off to work through their feelings before being able to really commit and put the time and energy into college. So I think it's about building the relationship, having honest conversations. It was hard for me to do at first, but a couple of years after my husband died, I did sit down with my children and I told them how much money I had for them. I said that I would not be able to cover all of their college, and began to talk about, this is important. If this is something that you want, what is it that you can do in college, in high school, to set yourself up better for college? And I put some of that responsibility, but open communication. Yeah, I think open communication, telling them what you are able to do for them and what you aren't. And it's fine if you're not able to do it. One of the things that I said to my children is, yes, you've had this horrible thing happen, and we all need to decide if we are going to go forward in life and make a difference. And if you do, what courses do you like in school? What activities do you like? What do you want for yourself? And put some of that on, just continue to talk about what will bring joy in their life.
Right. So there's no, again, automatic, but so you're saying if a student says they're ready or feels they're ready, and, there's no reason not to give it a try potentially.
Right. No, definitely. I mean, many, many people go right on, and I've had clients whose, a spouse dies and the child stays right in school, stays in college or goes to college just a couple of months later. It's just very individual. And it's sharing the information that if you feel this way, that's normal. However you're feeling, it's normal for you in how you're dealing with this loss. So it's really important that you have open communication, that you talk to the child. And if you don't feel ready to go to college this year, it doesn't mean that you won't ever go. I've talked to my daughter about that, and she has chosen to start college in the fall. She did a bit of a non-traditional way through high school. As I mentioned, she had a difficult time in high school. The high school had a hard time understanding what she was going through, and so did her friends. And so she ended up doing a dual enrollment program, and instead of attending the public high school for her senior year, she instead did a dual enrollment program at the community college and took community college courses to finish up her high school credits. And that was a great option for her. It worked for her. And she then saw that she could handle high school classes and that responsibility of not having a teacher who's going to be following up and making sure you're getting your work in. And she decided that she does want to go to college in the fall and start right away. But I think it's important to look at all our options and to not judge ourselves for wherever we are in the grieving process.
Right. I guess another thought I have, and I'm just going to put it out there and you can give your opinion on it, but if the loss is relatively recent, or even if it isn't, but if parents don't feel like they're up to dealing with college, yet the student still wants to go and they're more into it, what do you think about recruiting a trusted friend or, maybe a brother or sister or something that might help with college visits? Or
that is a fabulous idea. I love that you just said that, Brad, because it takes a village. And we have gotten away from that as a society of really helping each other. But in this case, our friends and our extended family are so crucial in both our children's healing their grief and ourself. So if you can recruit a family friend, a family member, an extended family member. My son did quite a good job with really getting to know other adults that he could talk to, because I think that's even true when you haven't lost a spouse. I did not go to the level of colleges that my son wants to and is able to go to. And so I have encouraged him to talk to people in our community who have gone to schools like that. And he's interviewed them and talked to alumni and gotten as much information as he can from other people. And he's had them write recommendations. And I think fabulous suggestion that please turn to others. Let your friends know that even if it's been a couple of years since your loss, that you still need their help. And if you're a friend, know that if you have a friend who has had a loss in the last 5 years, it's hard to do it by themselves. Reach out and see if you can support, bring one of their children on a college visit. If you're bringing your own child, talk to them about college. That's a fabulous suggestion, Brad.
Right. Because what I find is college is a major learning process.
Yes.
For most families, and you really got to work hard at it as far as, attending the presentations at your high school about how it, financial aid works, et cetera.
Mm-hmm. Reading the books and
right. Visiting the colleges and making major decisions about where you'd like to go and what you can afford and how the finances are going to work. And there's a lot of major decisions that happen. And if you don't feel like you're capable of, working through the process, if you had I think of, like a brother or sister or a close friend that could just step in and say, well, I can help you fill out the financial aid,
It's so true. And taking that chance and saying to people, it's really tough. That was very hard for me. And now I teach it all the time, but I understand when it's hard for people is to ask for help.
Right.
But we need to, and you know what? Most people do want to help. I mean, they can't do it all, but if you ask them for a specific task to help with something specific, especially asking people who are also going through it. So maybe they also have, your children's friends. I did have someone who said, we're doing a college tour. Does your son want to come along with us? So I've had a couple of people say that. So finding someone who's been through the process in the last couple of years that are a year or two ahead of you, they have really valuable information about getting through. I think talking to someone like you, if you can afford it, to get professional help with how to tame the cost and just moving through. It's so important. I didn't know about that when we were looking a year ago, but asking for help, reading books. I had people who had gone through the college process 2 years ago. We had got about 20 books from other people who had been through it recently. And I left them on the living room table. I encouraged my children to go through them, look at what different schools offered, look at financial aid and ways that you can get some funding. I talked to the guidance counselor and told her, our financial situation has changed. Can you help us with how to find out different ways to fund college?
Absolutely. So, all right. Well, I think we've learned a ton, and you gave us a lot of great information. If people want to get in contact with you and want to learn more about you, what's the best ways they can get a hold of you?
The best way is to go to my website, Passing Through Grief, and through is spelled out, THROUGH, passingthroughgrief.com. My name is Natalia Volz, and also check out my Facebook page, Passing Through Grief. There's lots of free information. As I said, there's ways that you can start to recover from your grief right away. And also you can contact me through my website if you'd like, and we can talk, and I can help you some more in really healing the grief so that you can begin to live fully and purposefully again.
All right. Well, that's great. And I really appreciate all the great information. As I always tell people, we'll have links to all the stuff that we talked about available in our show notes. So you can just go to Taming the High Cost of College, and information will be there as well.
Great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. All right. That was a great interview with Natalia. Hopefully you've learned a little bit. And if you are in the situation where you've got, a tough situation where you are grieving, hopefully you learned a little bit and you can use what you've learned to help move forward a little bit more. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the Scholarship Guide for Busy Parents. That is a scholarship guide that is available at my website at tamingthehighcostofcollege.com/scholarships. And it has 4 videos that help families understand the types of scholarships, what types of scholarships may be a good fit for your student and family, and then ultimately where to find them and how to pursue them. Most families don't do a good job in the scholarship process because they don't understand what they're up against, and they don't plan accordingly. So what the scholarship guide is designed to do is help you understand scholarships so you can plan and decide what path is right for you. Realistically, there's 3 choices. One choice is jumping into scholarships with both feet, applying to 20, 30, 40 scholarships and working really hard at it. That's not the right solution for most, however. In addition to that, another option would be to pursue the 3 or 4 or 10 scholarships, again, a relatively small number, so the work isn't so vast. Find the scholarships you have a really good chance at and focus just on those 2, 3, 5, whatever it might be. And that's where some families need to be. And then finally, in some situations, it may make sense to just ignore scholarships. Yes, there's an opportunity for free money, but you have to work at it. You have to spend time at it. And some families don't have that time. Either the student is busy or the parents are busy, or perhaps you're late in the college game, and therefore you need to focus on other things like the testing and the visits and the choosing the college. And you're just ultimately not going to have time to do a good job on scholarships. And that's okay. You can skip scholarships and come up with alternate ways to pay for college. In the end, a lot of families, whether they pursue them or not, ultimately don't win any scholarships, so they need to figure it out anyway. So if you think scholarships are a road for you, and most people should at least look into it so that you understand, I encourage you to go over to tamingthehighcostofcollege.com/scholarships and sign up there. If you give us your email, we will email you 4 videos, and each video teaches you a little bit about the types of scholarships and where to find them and how to pursue them, and ultimately how to build a scholarship plan for your family. All right, that's all we have for today. I appreciate you listening, and we will see you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Taming the High Cost of College podcast. Now it's time for you to take action. Head to tamingthehighcostofcollege.com for show notes, bonus content, and to leave feedback for Brad. The next step on your college journey starts now.
Brad Baldridge is a registered representative of Cambridge Investment Research and an investment advisor representative of Cambridge Investment Research Advisors, a registered investment advisor. Securities are offered through Cambridge Investment Research Incorporated, a broker-dealer and member of FINRA and SIPC. Brad owns two companies, Baldridge Wealth Management and Baldridge College Solutions. The Baldridge companies are not affiliated with Cambridge Investment Research.